So hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all for joining. I hope you're all safe and well. So some of you may be familiar with Xenogenics or may have worked with us in the past, but for anybody that hasn't, I'll just give you a brief introduction. So we are a consultancy and we specialize in all aspects of Salesforce. So we offer a wide variety of different services. So things such as sort of day-to-day support, just in administering your Salesforce org, and sort of day-to-day configuration requests, as well as new implementations and optimizing existing Salesforce orgs. So we can do, one of the things we really pride ourselves on is that we can move your entire business onto the Salesforce platform. So we cover Sales Cloud for all of your sales process, Service Cloud for all of your kind of customer service needs. We do Pardot for marketing, CPQ for kind of complex quoting, Financial Force for obviously your finance, as well as covering many other apps. So things like Conga for document creation, and Cloud Coach for project management. So really wide variety of things. So, if you are interested in any of those, you just want a bit more information, then, please do get in contact and we'll be happy to provide more details. So my name is Alex Haynes. I'm a consultant here at Xenogenics, and I primarily work on Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. So we're actually running this webinar today just because we wanted to demonstrate how Salesforce can be used to manage employee time off. So this is obviously something which is particularly relevant during these difficult times that we're all facing. So this is actually a process that we have set up in our internal Salesforce org, and we really like it because it's just quite a simple process. It's very user friendly. It's tried and tested, and it just works for us. Okay, so we will be recording today's webinar, and we'll send out a link after the session. If you do have any questions as we're going along, what I would say is if you could just put them into the chat, and we'll try to cover them off at the end of the session. But if not, I will come back to you all personally on those. Okay. Okay, so I've just jumped into our demo org that we've got set up here. So you can see we've got a fairly standard home screen layout here, but there are a couple of sort of custom elements here. So we've got the dashboard showing, and we've got the items to approve section up in the far top right. But everything else you see here is pretty standard Salesforce. So what we've got up in on the top panel here is we've got this time off tab. And so, the process that we're going to be showing you today is how to manage employee time off. And so the way we've got it set up is really to manage two things, and that's sick leave and annual leave. Now, this process could be extended out and you could use it to cover off other types of leave. But we've tried to create it as just quite a sort of simple, streamlined process for managing those two things. So we've got it up in the top tab here, and this works just, the same as any other tab that you would have for any of your standard objects, such as accounts, contacts, cases, etc. So I'll click into here, and we've got a list view showing and the usual options in terms of creating new, and the other buttons up here. So sometimes this real estate up on the top bar here is quite in demand, so you might not want to have a dedicated tab for this. So the other option that we've got for creating these requests is actually by using a global action. So that's right up here on this little cross mark up in the top. So if I launch that, you can see we've got an option for creating a time off request. So clicking that launches this little pop-up window in the bottom right-hand corner. So it's just a really simple window giving you only the information that you really need to log this time off request. So what I'm going to do is just enter a request. So let's say I want to book next week off work. So I'm just going to go in. So we've got our request, our time off request for next week. So from the 4th to the 8th. So I'm just putting in those dates. You notice that we've got start time here as well. So this is actually to accommodate half days leave. So you can see I can go in and I can select the start time to be either at the start of the day or from midday, and the same for the end time. So we can start it, you know, in the PM, or, you know, end it at a half day, or have it end at the end of the working day. So I'm just going to enter here the number of days. So in this case, this is 5 days leave. And in this example, it's not sickness. So this is annual leave. So I'm just going to create that. So we get our little pop-up to say that our time off request was created. And I'm just going to navigate through to this record here. So sure, this page will be familiar to any of you that are using Lightning. It's the standard sort of look and feel that you have in Lightning, but just a few things to point out here. So at the top, we've got a path. And so this is showing all the different statuses that the time off request can be in. So we've just created this one, so it's showing as a pending status. We've got a couple of tabs here. So we've got the standard details tab, which is showing all of the fields that we have on this time off request record. And we've also got a history tab. So what this is going to do is it's just going to provide a bit of an audit trail if any changes are made to the time off request. So for example, if any dates were changed. So let's just say I want to go in here. And actually, I want this to start from the Tuesday. So that's 4 days. So I've just updated it. And if I go into the history tab, you can see we've just got a record that those values were changed on there. So we've got our chatter section over on the right-hand side. Again, this will be familiar to any of you that actually use chat already. I'll touch on that a bit more later on. We've got our approval section down the bottom here, because we do have an approval process, which I'll go through in just a moment. And then the other thing is we've got our activity section. So if I just click into here, so you can see that when we've created this time off request, we've actually had an event created as well. And that's now linked against this time off request. So what I'll do is I'll just click through to here. So you can see we've got our time off request, and this is just standard Salesforce event activity. And so that's one of the really kind of useful, neat things about this process, is that you have full visibility of all of these time off requests in a user's calendar. So if I go back home, I can view the calendar. So you can see within my calendar, I've got my time off request showing here, and we've even got the status being pulled in. So anybody can see that I've got a pending time off annual leave request for this period here. Okay, so the next step of this process is to enter this record into the approval process. And the way we've got this working is it's actually the approval is going to go to the owner's manager. So in this example, I'm requesting the annual leave. So this request is going to go to the manager that's been specified on my user record, which in this case is another user called Sarah Hill. So what I'll do is I'll just submit this for approval. I'm just going to submit that straight away. So you can see we've had some updates. Our status has changed to submitted for approval, and we can see that the approval request has been routed to my manager, Sarah Hill. And what I'm going to do is just jump into a different browser window so I can show you this from the perspective of Sarah. So again, we've got the same home screen view. And what you can see up in the far top right is we've got a notification come in. So if I can click into there, I can actually see that that time off request, approval request has come in. and I can click through straight to that. Now, there are sort of different ways that you can manage these approval requests. So perhaps a more traditional way would be using email alerts. But what we wanted to demonstrate is that this entire process can be managed from within a single system of Salesforce. So you don't necessarily have to go and create email clutter that is going to perhaps be getting, clogging up people's inboxes. This can just be managed completely within Salesforce. So Sarah's received this time off request. And what I'm going to do just for an example here is just reject that, add some comments. So please book for full week, just as an example. So that's been rejected by Sarah. So what I do is I'll just jump back over to my point of view. So if I now navigate back to the time off request, and you can see that this has now been updated to rejected. And you can see that we've got the comments in here from Sarah. So what I'm going to do is just update that to the full week. Okay, and so now I've updated it. I'm just going to resubmit that for approval. And so to jump back over to Sarah's perspective, you can see we've had another notification up in the top right. So again, you can see that this has been resubmitted for approval now. So if I click through to that, so I can see the submitted comments, and what I'm going to do is just approve that. So thanks. Okay, so if I go back through to the time off request, and you can see here that we've actually been receiving chatter notifications. So you can see we've got a chatter post directed to me saying that the time off request has been approved. And another thing is if we have a look at the event, so that event has also been updated to approved as well. And something I should mention as well is another nice thing about having these events created is obviously we've designed this to be completely within, managed within Salesforce. But if you are using Outlook or you're using Gmail, you can actually set up a sync so that these events that are being automatically created in the system are actually being synced back to sort of external email clients and calendars there. So people outside of Salesforce can have visibility of that as well. So yeah, we've now got our fully approved time off request showing here. And we've got all of the approval history sitting in this related list at the bottom here. So that's really the first kind of flavor of this time off is the annual leave side and how the approval process works there. And then the other aspect that we have of this is around sick leave. So very similar process. In fact, it's actually a bit simpler. So let me just go back up and I'm going to create another time off request. And let's just say, so earlier in the month, or actually in March. So I had a couple of days off in March. I'm going to mark that as sick leave, yes. So let's create that. So obviously in the case of sickness leave, we don't want to have any approval process there. So you can see that this one has just defaulted straight through to approved. And we haven't had an event created for that since it's sitting in the past. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just flip back to the home screen as well. Let's just refresh this dashboard. So this is another nice thing about this process is now that we're creating all of these records in Salesforce, we can use the full suite of reporting and dashboard functionality that comes as standard with Salesforce. So what we've got is a custom dashboard showing on this home screen, and this is a dynamic dashboard. So what this means is that anybody viewing this dashboard is going to see the data that relates to them, that they own. Okay, so you can see I refreshed this dashboard and I've had some results suddenly pop up. So I've got a running counter here of the amount of annual leave that I've used. So in this example, we've got it set to 27 days as the annual leave allowance. And we've got a counter, we've used 5 days, and we've got that showing as a counter against the full allowance. So we've also got a running counter of our sick days running. And we've got just a list view basically showing all of the time off requests that we've done for this year by status. So if you've got, you know, an outstanding or a time off request that's pending approval, you can just have a very easy visibility of them all from this dashboard here. And what I'm going to do is actually go through to the dashboards tab. So that dashboard that was on the home screen there is very much just giving the personal view of your own time off requests. But we've also set up a time off management dashboard. And so this is going to be giving you information from more of a management level, so across the organization, and breaking down time off by person. Now, this is really just an example of what you can do. Reporting and dashboards within Salesforce are, you know, the possibilities are endless really, and that's a whole other subject in itself. But this was just to really give you a flavor of the kind of things that you can do once you're creating all these time off requests in Salesforce and how you can report off the back of them. Okay, we did actually run a separate webinar last week on reporting and dashboards. So what I'll do is we'll actually, when we're sending over the recording of this webinar, we'll actually provide you the link to the reporting and dashboards one as well. But that really kind of covers off the full process around managing time off. So as I say, it's quite a user-friendly process. It's really simple from the user point of view. It's very streamlined. And the way we've designed it is really to be sort of a starting point to that can be very easily implemented into either a new or an existing Salesforce organization. So there really aren't many dependencies that we've got here. And it can then be adapted to your specific business requirements and needs. So certainly things, you know, you could add in different types of leave and, you know, adapt it based on individuals. Okay. So I'm just going to see if there's been any questions on the webinar.
There has been a couple of questions, Alex, so
okay.
I'll jump in and ask them if that's okay.
Yes, sure.
What would happen if our annual leave period runs from April to April? Does that make a difference?
So yeah, at the moment, if I just jump back into one of these time off requests. So let's go into the one that I just created. So you can see what we've got in here is one of the fields is actually this time off year. So this is actually a formula field, and what that's doing is basically just calculating the period or the year that this falls into. So if you did have that requirement where perhaps your holiday runs, you know, from April to April, or, you know, some other sort of custom period, what you could do is you basically just update that formula field so that it was doing the calculation as to which period that time off fell into, and then you could just use that for all of your reporting. So yeah, that would be the kind of easy way around doing that. Okay.
Well, thanks, Alex. I've got one more question that's already come in, and it says, what if we've got different locations on different hours, i.e. that we don't work 9 to 5 in all of our different offices?
Okay, yep. Sure, so yeah, you could manage that as well, absolutely. We've got it set up in a sort of, as I say, quite a generic way to be sort of a really good starting place. So we've based it just off like standard 9 to 5 office hours. But if you do have sort of custom locations, one of the things that you could do is actually on the user record. So this is where we've got the user's manager that we're referencing in that approval process. What you could also do is have some fields on there that basically showed which office hours or business hours that user kind of worked under, and then you could just pull those in. So when you created a time off request, you would be sort of shown or given the options for the office hours that applied to you personally. So again, yeah, another way that you could sort of tweak that. So yeah, the possibilities are sort of endless really in terms of adapting it to your business process.
Well, thanks, Alex. That's it for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. So just to wrap up then, thank you all for joining today's session. As I say, we do have this packaged up as a process. It's very easy to kind of implement into your org. So if you are interested in that, or interested in any other sort of processes that you're wanting to move on to Salesforce and manage in there, please do get in contact and we'll be happy to provide details on that. Okay, so thank you everyone, and we'll follow up with all the details after the webinar.